I read the new 2022 holiday romances to tell you which books are going to be worth your time. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. Now for today's video, I thought that I would go ahead and read 5 new holiday romances that everybody has been talking about on booktube, and I want to tell you if these books are going to be worth your time during the last month of the year. I know we are trying to cram in as many books as possible before the end of this year, so we don't want to waste our time on mediocre books. So the first book that I want to talk about is this one from Maggie Knox called All I Want for Christmas, and she is actually the author of The Holiday Swap, which is a popular holiday romance that was published last year. Now, I didn't really like The Holiday Swap, mostly because I didn't like how the twins were switching identities and then they were lying about their identities, and then they ultimately get themselves into a stickier, deeper mess. So I didn't really like that, but I wanted to give Maggie Knox another try because this book looks so cute and the cover looks so pretty, so I had to pick it up. Now, unfortunately for me, I didn't realize that this followed a celebrity trope romance. So it involves 2 characters who are on a country music competition and they are climbing the ranks, but then what the audience and directors and producers start to realize is that they have this really great chemistry and connection that is seen on camera. So what the directors and the producers and the managers do is that they force these 2 characters to fake date on the country music competition reality show so that like the whole nation buys into this romance, and then it will boost viewership. So what they don't realize is that these 2 characters, our hero and heroine, actually were in a relationship way before they got famous and way before they got on this competition reality show. So we as readers try to figure out like what ultimately happened to have them separated in the end, and we try to understand where they're coming from and if they whether or not they want to pursue a long-term relationship in the future. Now, I gave this one a 3 out of 5 stars. I didn't really like the celebrity romance aspect of it, mostly because that's just my personal preference. I don't like celebrity romances. And then I also didn't like the fact that there was a lot of miscommunication. I felt that a lot of these issues between our 2 characters could have been resolved really easily if they just had a really like good conversation where they just talked about their issues. I felt that each character had a lot of internal issues, a lot of personal issues, and a lot of issues that happened that stemmed from their young adulthood and their childhood that could have been easily put out there and laid out in front of everyone so that everybody can understand each other a little bit more. A trigger warning for this book is that it does deal with a love of the lost ones, so this book is a little bit deeper than your typical holiday romance. The next book that I did want to talk about is this one called So This Is Christmas by Jenny Holiday, and this is actually book number 3 in her holiday romance trilogy from Avon Romance. Now, this one involves a trope that I haven't really seen a lot of. It involves 2 grumpy characters. Our hero and heroine are basically the same person. They are very grumpy, they follow the rules, they take their jobs very seriously, and our heroine is an American flying into a very small country because she is hired as a business strategist, a PR strategist for this royal family, for this small country that the whole world basically kind of forgets. But nonetheless, she respects the royal family and she wants to do a really great job because she's up for promotion at work back in New York City. And she arrives in this small country only to butt heads with the one person that she works directly closely with, which is like our hero, who is the assistant to the king. And so basically they work together, but they're bumping heads on a lot of issues because what they soon realize is that the royal family is kind of running deep in expenses, and she knows that she needs to start cutting people and laying off people, especially during the holiday season. And he's very adamant about stopping her because it's the holiday season, she's turning into a Grinch, and she's ruining lives of people that he really deeply cares about. So he often tries to convince her to fall in love with the country and to fall in love with the people, and then she slowly starts melting her icy heart, and then he also learns to give in a little bit more. Now this one, I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, mostly because I I'm used to the grumpy and sunshine trope. Usually with the grumpy and sunshine trope, you can have more give in the relationship. Usually somebody gives in more and then the other person learns to be less strict and less rule following. But when we have two very stubborn characters next to each other, it does get very difficult to stomach sometimes. It dragged on a lot and it just ultimately kind of fell flat and became a little bit boring towards the end. So that's why I'm only giving it a 3 out of 5 stars. Although it does have a lot of major Christmas vibes because they all work in this country that really loves the holidays and follows a lot of the Christmas traditions. And there's even a really big ball that takes place in this book, which is fun to see and to watch. Now the next book that I want to talk about is this one called One Last Gift by Emily Stone. She wrote this book called Always in December. And now if you're looking for a heartwarming, charming holiday romance read, then I think you should definitely try Emily Stone. I just knew that when I was walking into this book that there would just be a lot of emotions involved, especially since our heroine has just recently lost her brother and she's dealing with the grief over holidays, mourning over the last family member in her family that was alive, and now she's kind of all by herself. What she and her brother did when he was alive was that they used to do these scavenger hunts. He would usually just set up like a chain of clues for her to follow, and she is mourning the loss of that tradition until one day she receives a letter from her brother. And her brother basically sent these letters way before he passed away, so now she's kind of on this like mission to go solve this last treasure hunt. And it's there where she rekindles her romance with someone from the past, and she actually meets all these people that has impacted her brother's life, and for her to have like kind of a deeper understanding of who her brother is, because her brother actually did a lot of things that she never thought he would do. Now this one I gave it a 3 out of 5 stars, mostly because it didn't really have like that Christmas holiday vibes that I was promised or that I was looking for when I saw the cover of this book, when I saw that it was listed under holiday romances. Was it emotional? Yes, because it's very sad that you're losing someone like a close sibling, and the romance in this was like alright. Like I felt like they focused a lot on the individual characters that impacted or that her brother impacted a lot on, but then it didn't really focus on like the second chance romance. So overall, 3 out of 5 stars. Nothing's really impressing me yet. The next book that I did pick up is this one called Just Like Magic by Sarah Hogle. And now with Sarah Hogle, I kind of have a love-hate relationship. I didn't like her debut novel called You Deserve Each Other, but I liked her second novel called Twice Shy. So I was excited to see that she was writing a holiday romance. Now this one is a fun treat. This one involves our heroine who is a spoiled princess, and she grew up in the life of luxury. She had a lot of money, but unfortunately she doesn't know how to handle money, and she ends up spending all her money, and now she's poor. But she wants to keep up with the appearances, especially in front of her rich relatives and her rich family. So she decides to kind of like buy vintage items from vintage stores, and she ends up with like a record player, and she plays this Christmas holiday theme song, and then like this magical spirit kind of arrives in her house. And this magical spirit is just so happens to be kind of like a holiday Saint Nick Christmas type of character. He's there to teach her the true meaning of Christmas. So this feels like that Charles Dickens novel where it's like the ghosts of Christmas past and things like that. So she is kind of like reliving parts of her life, learning how to be more generous, learning how to be more caring, more loving to her family, and learning that she doesn't have to be materialistic to be loved. Overall, I really thought that this book was so fun. It was wacky, it was silly, it was creative, it was everything that I never thought Sarah Hogle would write. It definitely surprised me after reading those 3 romances. So I really enjoyed this one, and I gave this one close to a 4 out of 5 stars. I think I gave this one a 3.5 out of 5 stars, mostly because I felt that it got a little tiring with how wacky and silly it was towards the middle. Like 60-70% mark-ish was where I kind of grew bored with how silly the book was. And overall, the romance in this one felt a little bit unbelievable. believable because our hero was kind of like never really there. If you guys haven't guessed it already, our hero is actually that ghost. It's hard to take him seriously because he is this like very joyful character, very silly, very wacky. So it just made it a little bit harder for me to believe in the love, but I think this one is worth your time because it's so fun and it definitely gets you into the Christmas spirit. So the last book that I want to talk about is this one called Once Upon a December by Amy E. Reichert, and now she wrote this book called The Kindred Spirits Supper Club. Now that one was an average read for me, so I was a little bit nervous about picking this book up. So what I actually ended up doing was that I borrowed the audiobook before I bought the physical copy, and then as you can tell, I really like the audiobook, and then that's why I had to buy the physical copy so that I can join my book collection. Now this one follows kind of like a really cute, like magical Christmas theme once again. Our hero is part of like this really small like magical town where all they focus on is Christmas. Like it's in their blood. They have magical powers, and what they essentially do is that they spread Christmas cheer from town to town, and each year they pick a different town to set up a Christmas market, and then they sell like breads, they sell like ornaments, they sell like gifts, and they sell like all these things just to like spark up everybody's like life a little bit. One night, one year, like around Christmas time, he bumps into our heroine and he immediately falls in love with her. He thinks that she is just magical and he is smitten by her, but then after that night, he has to travel to a different town in a different Christmas year, and basically he never sees her again in like 10 years or something. Our heroine is just a normal girl. She broke up recently with her boyfriend and she is just trying to do her job well, and she's trying to take care of her dog, and she's also trying to be in the Christmas spirits with her friends. And they travel back to a Christmas market, and that's where she sees him again and she has this instant connection with him. And then it's through this book where they kind of have more instances of bumping into each other, of going on dates, of falling in love. And I just ultimately really enjoyed it. I really liked how creative the world setting was. I really liked how creative Amy was with building the world. And I really hope you guys pick this one up because this one was my favorite of the holiday romances that I read so far. This one, I gave it a 4 out of 5 stars. The only reason why I took a star off was because it took a little long to get where we had to go, but overall still very enjoyable. But anyways, that is it for all the holiday romances that were recently released and that I read this year. Hopefully you guys know which ones to add to your TBR or which ones to move down your TBR, and I'll see you guys again next time in a new video. Bye!